hey, I'm reading a physical book, doesn't it make me look smart? You look smart, but you're gonna sound dumb when you realize you don't actually understand anything that you have read. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you are all doing well. I wanted to make this video today because someone left a comment under my video about how to strengthen your relationship with God and the things that have helped me, which was about how they were trying to read their Bible more consistently. And it made me think about how this year for me has been a year where I have tried to read a lot more consistently. And I have been able to read my Bible as well as loads of other books which have aided my spirituality, productivity, and relationships way more often than I'd say I have over the last 2-3 years. And so I wanted to share the things that have been helping me. So the first one is consistency is relative. So what does it mean to you? You need to ask yourself two main questions. How much? How often? Now for me, I set myself quite realistic targets based on the amount of time I have available and what I really want to achieve and the pace I want to move at. So for me, consistently reading right now looks like reading 3 chapters of the Bible every single day, reading 1 physical book every single month, which tends to be a fiction book, and listening to 1 audiobook a week. And the reason why I've broken it down like this is because for me, 1 to 3 chapters of the Bible is a great amount to be able to study, which doesn't take me too long. Because if I say I'm going to commit 2-3 hours of every single day, I am most likely to fail with my current schedule. And I just have to be honest with myself that I don't want to set myself up for failure or beating myself up or feeling like a bad Christian because I'm not reading my Bible. And when it comes to reading physical books or reading fiction books, I'm really just doing that for enjoyment. And so I know for myself that I'm going to be doing that mainly on the weekends. And so it's not realistic for me to finish a whole book in 1 weekend for me, based on my reading pace and how much I struggle to get to the end of a physical book. So I spread it out across the month. And it's been a great way for me to rest on the weekend, to be able to spend an hour or 2 on a Saturday or Sunday morning reading a book and a good story has really brought me pleasure. It just feels like I'm in my grown woman era, you know, a cup of tea and a nice book. It's been nice. But I listen to audiobooks on a regular, and depending on the length of the audiobook, I will listen to, you know, bits here and there on the train whilst I'm going for a walk, and I can listen attentively, but I can still do other stuff. Say for example, I'm moving about around the house. It's been really nice to spread my reading in that way because it helps me to know I'm doing little bits consistently, which will ultimately add up by the end of the month. I usually find that I've been able to get through a book of the Bible, a book of fiction, and also a couple of audiobooks which have given me great knowledge to be able to approach my day and my life. And that for me is a good balance of things and helps me reach my goal of being consistent. And so the key things you need to look at is, what is your goal for consistency? Not based on what everyone else is doing. Some people are out here reading a book or 2 a day. Sometimes I think that's going to be too overwhelming for me because I read at the pace of a snail. And so really breaking down what consistency looks like for me has been very helpful. It has also meant I've been able to set realistic goals and targets for myself, which, like I said, help me to not feel like a failure when I can't keep up with them. And some months do look different. Sometimes I need to make up for the days that I have missed, but at least I know I'm kind of on track and I don't feel like I am behind because I am setting my own pace. The next thing that has helped me is sequences and triggers. Some of the reading or the listening that I do is bound or confined to a specific time or a specific space. So I'm usually reading my fiction book at home. I have tried to read fiction books whilst I'm, you know, out and about, but I find that I am entirely too overstimulated by everything going on around me. And so reading a book on a Saturday or a Sunday morning whilst I'm in my bedroom allows me to just focus on the words on the page. That's just because I know how I am when I read physical books. And when I'm out and about, that's when I know I put on my my headphones, I open the Audible app and I listen to whatever audiobook I'm listening to, and I pick it up the next time I'm out walking around or just want to listen to something in my ears. And when I'm reading my Bible, I know it's once I've woken up and I've put on my gym clothes, I sit back down on my made bed, don't worry, I sit back down on my made bed and I read a couple of chapters of the Bible, or whilst I am eating my breakfast. And so knowing when I am reading, when in the day I'm reading, where I will be, and having those reminders that say, hey, I'm on the train, it's time to listen to an audiobook, or hey, it's the morning time, I've just woken up, and before I get started with work and even my workout, let me get my Bible reading and my Bible study out of the way. Or it's Saturday morning, that means it's time to read my fiction book, and having my fiction book on my bedside table so that I can read it at my own leisure in the morning has definitely helped me to know it's time to read. And so you should set yourself triggers, whether it's your book on your bedside table or putting your Bible beside your bed or next to where you have breakfast in the morning. You should definitely have things that remind you that, hey, it's time to read. Now, you might not always get it right, especially in the beginning phase because you're learning and you're adjusting. But for me, making it easier to reach for the book or listen to the book has meant that I've been able to fly through things because there has been a bit less resistance. So find places where you can leave your book that remind you, when I sit here, it's time for me to do this, or when I go here, it's time for me to do that. And so for me, having a set time to read my Bible because it's something I'm trying to do daily has meant that before life gets and the day gets really busy, I can get my Bible commitment out of the way. But also for me, knowing that when I'm on my commute, it triggers me to open up my audiobook helps me to stay consistent in listening to that as well. So set up some sequences, some patterns, and some triggers to remind you that, hey, you need to do your reading today and you need to do it now. The next thing is focus. I don't read books on the train anymore or whilst I'm out and about because I get way too distracted. And the same with reading my Bible. I find that when my phone is pinging and I'm getting notifications everywhere to tell me, hey, do this, do that, especially even in the morning. Yeah, even in the early morning, the people are looking for me. It's great to know that I can just silence my phone. DND, do not disturb, is on before the hours of 9 a.m. Yep. No shame about it. I think it's important to cultivate an environment where you can actually focus. And especially when it comes to reading something like the Bible where I'm studying and also it's a part of my faith and I really want it to grow me spiritually, having silence and a degree of solitude has really helped me connect with the living words on that paper. But even on Saturday mornings, I know that I'm reading a fictional book because I want to rest. And so having an environment which allows me to just focus on the story and becoming fully immersed means I can actually focus on reading. And with audiobooks, it's so much easier because yes, the world is loud, but with my noise cancelling headphones in and somebody talking to me, it feels like I'm just focused on the words that are being said to me and I'm picking up things here and there which I feel like are really good quotes. It's like a podcast, right? With an audiobook, to me, I liken it to a podcast where it's like somebody's talking to you, you pick up on a gem, you note it down in your notes, but you can still be looking at things, you can still be walking. You don't have to be taking notes or looking at, a devotional or something that will explain passages to you. And you're also not doing this to relax. You're on the go and you're listening on the go. And that to me has meant I can focus on an audiobook, but I know I don't need to focus too much. And I just want to process a lot of information quite quickly. The next thing that I would say is find some community and accountability, especially when it comes to daily reading, like for me, reading the Bible, knowing that I can speak to people or somebody's going to ask me at some point, oh, so what did you study today? Did you study today? What have you been learning this week? Has definitely made me realize, hey, I need to study, read, and learn this week. And I think it's really good to have a degree of accountability when you are sticking to a goal, even if it is reading. If you want to, read a book every month, it may be worth actually joining a book club who will force you to actually talk about what it is that you have read. And it's not about feeling shame if you don't meet your goals, but it's knowing that you have something else which you're working towards, which isn't just, self-satisfaction, but actual communal enjoyment and engagement with other people. And so getting some accountability around you, as well as surrounding yourself with people who also like reading or maybe pursuing the same goals that you may be in terms of reading more often, encourages you to know that you're not doing this alone, but you can actually talk to other people about what you find. Now, the next two tips I'm going to share are about making reading not just more enjoyable and easier to do, but also more beneficial to you. I find that reading books can sometimes feel a bit pointless. And so the first thing I would say is, one, what is your understanding and how much effort are you trying to put into gaining understanding, especially when it comes to things like reading the Bible or listening to audiobooks or reading books for education purposes. This isn't just about hoarding information. This really is about, thinking about what it is that you are reading and how you're going to implement that into your life. What is it going to be like to actually put this thing into practice? And I really am a big advocate for not hoarding loads of information and, having basically making yourself susceptible to information overload, because I think education is important, learning is important, but at some point, too much information becomes paralyzing. And so I think it's important to really break down what it is that you are learning into digestible bites, just so that you can make sure to check in as to whether you understand what you're reading and what you're listening to, or if you need to take some time to really think about it. For me, being able to read my Bible, but also going through a commentary like Enduring Word, I'll leave the link down in the description, which kind of gives you context to the biblical passages, because I don't know if you remember, in a couple of videos back, I was talking about how I'm currently studying the book of Leviticus. I'm still there. Yeah. And if it wasn't for Enduring Word, I would not be able to endure, because it is different. It's different, but it's great. It's actually a really good book. And I found that having the commentary beside me has opened up the word to me in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do for myself, because I didn't have the context or an understanding for the language. And it has made it a lot more enjoyable for me to read something which, quite frankly, I actually found quite intimidating before I started it. It has meant that I've had to slow down in my reading, because reading the commentary and the Bible passages together have definitely taken up a lot more time, but it has been way more beneficial, and it has made, like I said, studying it way more enjoyable, because I actually feel like I'm understanding it. If you think back to being in school or in university, when somebody's lecturing at you or you're reading something and you're just like, I don't understand this, the first thing you want to do is give up and just stop. And because I want to be able to keep going and do this sustainably and consistently, I really want to make sure that I have understanding. It's the same way with books. If I feel like somebody's talking about a concept, I'm currently reading a book called Skin in the Game, for example, and it's really, really good. But sometimes the language just goes over my head because it's a physical book, and I struggle. I just struggle to read sometimes. I really want to get tested, but anyway, that's another conversation for another day. Because the language is a bit, more, fancy smancy, which we don't mind, I definitely have to take more time with the book. But the one thing that I don't want to do is just read a book to say I've read it, but not know what to say about the book and not know what the book was saying. And so actually taking time to make sure I pause to understand what's being said, what I'm also going to take away, and processing the information that's coming forth has made it a lot more enjoyable to read. I wouldn't say it's necessarily made it easier, because it has taken a lot more time, but it has made me want to read more, if that makes sense. And the last thing I would say is, find your learning style. Now, I know this video is about reading, but ultimately it's actually about learning. For me, learning more about God by reading the Bible, learning more about productivity or relationships or, health through listening to different books and reading different books, or even just learning about new worlds through stories and storybooks has been great. And that has ultimately been my goal, to expand my mind, to expand my thinking, to expand my vocabulary, to expand my faith and my knowledge, because that has always been my goal. And not necessarily being able to say I've read all the books on this bookshelf, or, hey, I'm reading a physical book. Doesn't it make me look smart? You look smart, but you're going to sound dumb when you realize you don't actually understand anything that you have read, or you haven't been able to commit yourself to reading consistently. And this isn't to shame anybody. This is more so to say vanity metrics of being able to say you've read a physical book may not actually be the ultimate goal for most of us. Now, I do think reading physical books and getting off your screen and allowing yourself to expand your vocabulary as well as strengthen your actual cognitive ability through reading physical books cannot be denied. It's extremely beneficial. But I think it's important to also know that you are learning and you are optimizing your learning by doing something which actually works for you. Which is why for me, I listen to way more audiobooks than I read physical books apart from the Bible, which is technically only one book. Well, 66 books. 66 books. I guess. But you get what I mean. I'm reading one book consistently, but a lot of audiobooks. And I think it's important for me to know I'm trying to learn and I want to find a way that makes this thing easier for me so that I can be consistent. It's like with exercise. If somebody tells you to show up to do a particular exercise every single day because they know it's beneficial to you, but you yourself hate it, you're not particularly good at it, and there are actually so many other more exercises which you'd want to explore and may make it easier for you to show up on a daily basis, why would you stay consistent with something you don't like? And so for me, it's really been about finding something that I can stay consistent with, which I actually like, which helps me to move at my own pace and helps me to stay focused in pursuing greater understanding and greater knowledge when it comes to the things that I care about and the things that will actually help me. So that's how my journey with reading has been going so far this year. Maybe I'll make an update towards the end of the year, hopefully as I etch closer and closer to my goal to having 12 months of consistent reading. It hasn't always been great, but we're getting there. But yeah, hopefully I can do an update on this video. But please share tips down below as to things that have helped you maybe read more consistently. Is reading consistently one of your goals for this year or just a goal you have for your life in general? I would really, really love to know the things that have helped you and what you're trying to do. So talk to me in the comments, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you very, very soon. And as always, stay beautiful and stay blessed.